Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode of Dialing In. Today I'm taking a look at one of the more interesting overdrive effects, distortion effects, I guess we can call it. I don't know if it's really I wouldn't really call it a classic overdrive distortion. It is the Dallas Rangemaster Treble Booster, otherwise known as the Deranged Master in the Helix. So what is the Deranged Master? Well, it was originally designed as kind of a treble booster to, maybe be used as a tool to brighten up dark sounding amps back in the 1960s, right? It probably, was used by a number of famous players, maybe most notably Brian May from Queen. I believe Billy Gibbons, there's some rumors that Eric Clapton used it. I never like to say one way or the other who used what. I wasn't there, I don't know. We just kind of go with whatever the information we see floating around the rumors. But what does it matter anyways, right? So this is an interesting effect because when I first tried it, I just remember going, wow. And I think, Line 6 even puts a warning that this thing can basically tear your ears apart, right? If we dial it in with the wrong amp and with the wrong settings. Now, that's what's interesting about it. I think it's really important to use this in the right situation with the correct amp. If we put this on an already bright amp, you're probably gonna get turned off of the effect pretty quickly. It can be pretty harsh and pretty dramatic when we first put it on at the stock settings. Well, enough about that. Let's go over to HX Edit and take a look at what we have. So right now I have my normal template set up with the LA Studio Comp at the end. Again, I'm gonna take this off for now, simply because I love the sound of that as a mastering tool per se at the end, but we want to hear what the sort of compression characteristics of these overdrive pedals are. So I'm gonna take that away, and I'm also gonna get rid of my high and low shelf here that I like, that kind of polishes the sound up too, just so we can hear a little more clearly what the effect on the EQ of the sound is, just from throwing the Rangemaster on there in its settings. So basically I have an EQ at the end here that just has high and low cut on it is all. I've got a little bit of verb, a touch of delay, and I put on the Brit Trem Norm model for a simple reason that to me is one of the darker sounding Marshall amps, and maybe one of the darker sounding amps we have in the Helix. I put it on it with a 412 Greenback 25 with a 121 ribbon 1-inch back. So I was really going for a purposefully dark tone, maybe even in an unusable way, to kind of hear what the effect of the Rangemaster does, or the Deranged Master does, has on the effect of the tone. If you notice, I kept the low and high cuts in here, even though we have them over here. Again, potentially darkening the sound up even more. I don't even know if you'd really notice that much. That's just sort of the stock settings that come up. So here is the tone with, and then here is our Deranged Master here. Here is the tone with my Godin Stadium Telly playing through the Brit Trem Norm sound that I came up with here. Nothing wrong with that tone, but it's going to need some help to come to life and brighten up. It's purposefully dark. So let's see what happens when we take, I'm gonna actually take the Deranged Master off because I was messing around with it before. Let's put this in just with the stock settings that come up. So we have drive, bass, treble, and level. Now, one thing to keep in mind, on the original Rangemaster, there was no bass and treble control. There was no level control. There was a boost control and an on-off switch, basically. So the boost would be much like, I'm guessing, like the drive control here that we have. But, from what I read about in the research I did, a lot of folks said that so many of these units, from unit to unit, sounded so different. None of them were exactly the same, which houses a lot of older gear, right? So from what my understanding is, and maybe I'm wrong here, but the bass and treble control were added in so we could tweak this further and maybe mimic the sound of different units. And hey, anyways, more control is kind of better, right? So I don't know what the settings are that would most represent the unit that was modeled by Line 6. I'm guessing maybe the bass at 5.2 and the treble at 6.5. I don't know, but we're going to take a look at all of these anyways. But here it is without the Deranged Master on. Here's the tone I came up with that we just heard a second ago. Here it is with the Deranged Master on with the stock settings. Off, on. Really improves the sound a lot. It's not perfect. I find maybe it's a little bit too saturated, those settings. Again, that's just my personal preference. Some other folks might like it. But let's do this. As I always like to do with these, I like to explore extremes, okay? So let's start off by bringing the bass and the treble down to 0. Let's bring the drive down to 0. Now, oftentimes with some of these drive pedals, we get no sound when the drive is at 0. Let's see what happens. Same thing here. So we'll roll that in to 2. Very weak. 3. Bring it around 4. So we're really not getting much of anything there. The volume's way down. I could boost the level up here. Still not matching. Let's crank that up. So this is very fat and dark with it off. It really thins it out. Bring that up to 5. Is it off? Really does bring that to life though, with the bass on 0, treble on 0, and drive on 5. There's something nice going on in the upper end now. Although it has kind of have almost taken all the bottom out of it. Is it off? Might work in a mix actually if you needed something really thin that kind of just cut through, right? Don't really know if it's adding too much overdrive, really, to be honest with you. But it's doing something nice to the tone. Now, let's check out the bass control because, as I said, we've lost a lot of that bottom end. It's done something nice to the highs, but maybe we can restore some of the beef and body by bringing the bass in. Let's jump that up to 5 and see what happens. Is it off? We've got a lot of the bottom back. It's kind of taken a little bit of the mud out and given it more cut, but it's added some overdrive now as well. So here again with it off. Then on. I could probably bring the level down now as it's kind of making this louder. What a difference in tone, right? Here we have kind of a little less overdrive, muddy, kind of lacking in bite and cut. We put the Rangemaster on. That's very nice. That bass control is really handy. What happens if we crank that up to 10? Off. Really fills out some wooliness to that bottom end, which, I mean, probably a little too much there, but it is what it is. Okay, let's bring that back down to 0. Here's that tone. What happens when we bring the treble in? Let's bring that into 5. We really hear how it adds some crispiness to it, right? I would very unlikely ever use it like that, but it's just to hear what the quality of that upper end is. Comparing that to with it off is going to be very dramatic now. So it really depends on what we're going for, but we can see here that those controls are quite dramatic. So coming back to 0, let's see what happens when we crank that drive up to 10. Again, compared with it off. Does something very nice to the sound, and it saturates it, but not in an unpleasant way, and not in a way that's maybe even too much. I kind of like it. What can we do here? Well, what if we were to say maybe go up to 6 on the drive? I'm going to come up to 5. That was a real sweet spot for me on the bass. See what that sounds like. That's kind of nice, but I think we could come in, dial maybe 2 in on the treble. Lift it off. Very muddy, lacking definition, lacking bite. We bring the Rangemaster on those settings. Really going to be up to personal preference. We could even bring a little more of the treble in. Really nice stuff at those settings. Now, here's what's interesting though. Let's turn that off. Let's come over here and let's even just turn that amp model off and bring in something brighter. Let's go with something like a Brit Plexi Bright with a 57 dynamic mic. Now with the Deranged Master off, I won't even change the settings on this. Let's see what it sounds like. It's very quiet. you know, let's say we had I'm gonna make this pretty. Now that's really quite bright. I don't know if I'd want to do. Okay, let's go with that. And now we'll see what happens when we bring the Deranged Master into those same settings. Not very pleasant at all, right? It's very piercing, very bright, in not a very pleasant way. The reason I wanted to do that little demo is just because I think a lot of folks have tried, and I've seen some examples of people commenting this online. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I tried the Rangemaster. Oh man, it's terrible. It's really, you know, it ruined my tone. It made everything really bright, awful, not nice." You know, I don't think that was ever the real intended purpose of the Rangemaster Treble Booster. It was as a treble booster, right? It was to take maybe an otherwise slightly dark sounding amp and give it the ability to make it cut better, make it brighter, but in a pleasant way. And I think the folks at Line 6 did a really bang up job modeling this when used in the right situation. So something like the previous situation where I had the Brit Trim Norm with a ribbon mic, kind of dark and muddy, we might write that tone off, but we throw the Rangemaster on with the right settings and it just brings it to life beautifully. So, you know, just thought I would throw that out there and take a little bit of a look at what I think is actually a really interesting distortion model, overdrive model, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's really just a treble booster. But I think it's important to understand its kind of stated purpose and what it does so that we don't misuse it or use it in a situation where it may not be appropriate. You know, there's going to be some situations where it's absolutely appropriate, amazing, and maybe one of the best things you could put on, and others where it's just not going to work. So now that we kind of know what the controls do, know what the sound is, we can pick and choose wisely, and that's why it's so nice to have all the options in the Helix that we do. So anyways, I hope that was helpful, guys. I hope you enjoyed that look at it, and I hope you enjoyed some of those tones. Please like the video, share it if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the little bell notification, get notified when I put new content out. Also go check out my my presets on Line 6 Marketplace. I have a whole lot up there that can help folks get up and running right away with some cool tones that I use for my sessions all the time and my projects and my live playing, and I just use all those myself as they are. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will be back soon with some more content. Take care, and thanks again for tuning in. Ciao.